Bananas seem pretty ordinary until you realize they're curved for a reason. So why didn't nature make them grow straight? I'm Professor Everything, and today we'll be answering the question, why are bananas curved? Right here on Explaining Everything. Most people imagine bananas hanging from trees like apples. That's already wrong. First of all, banana plants aren't actually trees. They're giant herbs. In fact, they're the world's largest herbaceous flowering plants. So technically, your pasta seasoning and a banana plant are distant botanical cousins. Now, let's look at how bananas actually grow. A large flower stalk emerges from the center of the plant and bends downward under its own weight. Along this stalk, clusters of young bananas begin forming. At first, every tiny banana points toward the ground. Gravity is winning. If bananas simply kept growing this way, they'd stay perfectly straight, or at least much straighter than they are now. But then, something fascinating happens. Instead of continuing downward, each developing fruit begins changing direction. It's almost as if every banana suddenly remembers it left the oven on. One by one, they start bending upward, and that's exactly where the curve begins. So why does the fruit suddenly decide to grow upward? The answer is something called negative gravitropism. Plants constantly sense gravity using specialized cells that contain tiny, starch-filled structures called statoliths. These microscopic particles settle toward the bottom of the cell, acting almost like biological spirit levels. They tell the plant which direction is down. Roots respond by growing toward gravity. Shoots respond by growing away from it. Young bananas are technically part of the plant's shoot system, so they naturally try to grow upward, even though they're hanging upside down. Gravity says, "Go down." The banana says, "No." As the fruit continues to lengthen, its base remains attached to the hanging flower stalk, while the growing tip continually redirects itself toward sunlight. This uneven growth gradually produces the familiar curve. Scientists refer to this upward growth response as negative gravitropism, and it's controlled by plant hormones called auxins. Auxins regulate how quickly cells expand. When gravity changes the distribution of these hormones, one side of the developing fruit elongates slightly more than the other. That tiny difference accumulates day after day. Eventually, the banana bends into its iconic shape. It's surprisingly similar to bending a flexible ruler. Stretch one side just a little more than the other, and the entire object curves. No tiny construction workers required, despite what cartoons may have suggested. Gravity starts the process, but there's another force pulling the banana in a different direction. Light. Plants don't just sense gravity, they also detect light through specialized proteins called photoreceptors. Young banana fruits naturally grow toward the brightest available light, a response known as phototropism. Remember, the entire bunch hangs downward beneath the plant's massive leaves. If the bananas continued growing toward the ground, many would remain shaded by the leaves above. That's bad news. Sunlight powers photosynthesis in the plant, providing the energy needed for the developing fruit. By curving upward and outward, each banana positions itself where it's less likely to be blocked by neighboring fruits or foliage. It's basically trying to get the best seat in the stadium. No one wants to be stuck behind the 7-foot-tall guy wearing a giant hat. The combined effects of negative gravitropism and phototropism create the banana's signature shape. Gravity tells the fruit to grow away from the ground, while light encourages it to grow toward open, brighter spaces. The result isn't an accident. It's the product of millions of years of plant evolution, fine-tuning the most efficient way to grow. Here's something many people don't realize. Not all bananas curve the same way. Some varieties are only slightly bent, while others look like they were designed by someone who absolutely refused to draw straight lines. The amount of curvature depends on several factors. Genetics plays the biggest role. Different banana cultivars naturally produce different shapes because their growth patterns vary. Environmental conditions also matter. Light intensity, temperature, spacing between plants, and the orientation of the fruit bunch can all influence how much the bananas bend during development. Even the position of an individual banana within the bunch can make a small difference. The fruits on the outer edges often receive more light than those tucked closer to the center. Scientists have even observed that bananas grown under controlled conditions sometimes develop slightly different curves than those growing in natural environments. This flexibility is actually common throughout the plant kingdom. Plants constantly adjust their growth in response to their surroundings, making them surprisingly dynamic organisms despite spending their entire lives rooted in one place. Most of us complain when we have to walk across the room for the TV remote. Plants solve complex environmental problems without having a brain. Talk about overachievers. So, why are bananas curved? Because as they grow, they fight gravity and grow toward light. It's a simple trick of plant biology and one of nature's cleverest ways of helping a fruit find the best place to grow. If you like this video, hit that like button and subscribe. Also, if you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for tuning in and join us next time here in the channel that answers all the why, what, who, where, and how questions you've always wondered about here on Explaining Everything.